Yeah, I mean, we are sort of the epitome of an EJ community, an environmental justice community, and that is, a community that is overburdened by environmental burdens, by environmental hazards. My name is María Belén Power. I use she, her, hers. I am originally from Nicaragua, and I now live and work in Chelsea in GreenRoots.
My name is Penn Loh, and I am a senior lecturer and the director of community practice here at the Department of Urban and Environmental Policy and Planning at Tufts.
So Chelsea and East Boston and the Chelsea Creek carry a lot of the burdens for the region. And so 100% of the jet fuel that's used at Logan Airport is stored on the banks of the Chelsea Creek. 80% of the region's home heating fuel are also stored along the banks of the Chelsea Creek. 70% of the region's gasoline, the road salt for over 350 communities. The New England Produce Center is in Chelsea and Everett. It's one of the largest produce distribution centers in the country.
Chelsea is, unfortunately, unlike a lot of other environmental justice communities where there's a health burden. There are asthma rates that are amongst the highest in the state. There are all kinds of other public health issues that are caused by these environmental burdens. There's just so much about health that's correlated to income and wealth. And so when you have working class communities, they're already more vulnerable and at risk for different types of public health problems, and then you slam them on top of that with all of these environmental burdens. And that's what we pretty much have in Chelsea, is a classic case of environmental injustice when you add up all of those concerns together.
The location of these facilities, having it be in Black and brown, immigrant, non-English speaking, low-income communities, is definitely not a coincidence, or that the folks that are the most vulnerable live in places that are polluted or dangerous or hazardous, are also not a coincidence. And so those are sort of the challenges of our work and of our communities.
And it's no surprise that some of the early environmental justice studies that were done to look at why polluting facilities tended to be placed in less affluent communities. One of those studies uncovered internal documents that some big companies had, where they were hiring consulting firms to try to figure out where do they place certain types of polluting facilities. And these consulting firms were telling them, go to those communities that have the least economic and political power. I mean, it was very explicit. This was not, this was not a hidden agenda. This was a pretty direct agenda, and it also makes a lot of economic sense. But we also have to ask, why is it so unequal, right? And there, I think we do have to talk about capitalism. We have to talk about the economic system that has produced such vast inequalities in wealth. And I would say, along with those inequalities in wealth come inequalities in political power.
So we are a resident-led environmental justice organization, and the areas, the geographical areas that we focus are our two communities, Chelsea and East Boston. And so we are hyper-local grassroots organizing, building a base of residents that are empowered to fight back, to improve their environment, to protect their public health, and to really achieve environmental justice. We sort of have rallies and protest, as well as strategizing and really thinking about the best way to move forward, whether that be for public transit or food justice and urban agriculture, or with our youth crew, the Environmental Chelsea organizers. So it really can be a day entirely of Zoom meetings or a day entirely outside in the community, or meeting with stakeholders, elected officials. So it really varies. So at the very hyper-local level, we're trying to acquire a piece of land that's on the waterfront of the Chelsea Creek that we are hoping that will be open space, green space, public access to our waterfront, as well as affordable housing.
There's a park, an existing state-owned park that's on the waterfront right under the Tobin Bridge. And adjacent to that, or connected to that park, is a redeveloped naval base that actually has, folks of some means and wealth living there. And they did not like the fact that a lot of people of color would come to that park, play soccer, and basically take it over, and use it. And so some complaints from those folks to their various elected officials resulted in the state government coming in one weekend and placing those Jersey concrete barriers all over the open space there. They were saying, oh, there's drug dealing and all this kind of stuff happening in this place, and so we're going to create a way to prevent people from using the space. And that drew the attention of the Chelsea Green Space and Recreation Committee, and they said, this is pure and simple an act of environmental racism. You wouldn't be doing this if it was folks who didn't look like us who were using this park. And we're Chelsea residents too, we should have access. And so it took a whole series of protests, advocating with elected officials to undo what had been done. And it's just kind of things like that other communities would never have to deal with. That in a city like Chelsea, this is what folks had to do just to have places to picnic and to play soccer. The work that's been happening in Chelsea is just an example of what grassroots efforts and leadership can accomplish with some persistence, and and how really what the answer is to environmental racism and injustice, and that is building community power.
A lot of times people think that we have to go really far to find injustice, or folks travel to Latin America or to Southeast Asia or Africa, and we don't have to go that far to look at places where we can improve or where we can organize and make our own communities better. So visit or get involved in your own community. So whether there's a vacancy for the planning board or zoning board or any other, or library board, any other sort of body that is that excites you, and really get involved in the sort of hyper-local places where you can have an impact and where your voice can be where it's an added value for yourself and as well for the community. What I usually say is just find what is most passionate to you, whether it's transit or food or planning or air quality, and find the organizations that are doing that work in your neighborhood or in your area, and really get involved little by little, and you'll figure it out.
So I would say the most important thing for students is try to get to know communities, try to get involved in different activities and support different things that are already going on, and and build up kind of your own base of knowledge and your own direct experience. But at the end of the day, it's the ethic of can we engage community partners as co-producers in our work here at the university, right? Not see them as a place that we're giving kind of our charity, or that will benefit from the big storehouse of knowledge, right, that we think we have. Tufts, like all universities, is place-based. So for me, there's just that kind of moral imperative of, we are here, this is our place, these are our neighbors, and if we have such disparities in environmental conditions, economic conditions, right, then it is part of our duty especially since we're here at this, mission-centered higher education institution that says we want to better the world, right? Well, what better place to start than right here in our home region?